Alrighty guys, welcome back to yet another Isaac Finance video. Today we're going to be going over the Bitcoin price action, some altcoins, looking at the sentiment and looking at potential trades we can take in the midterm, long term, and potentially short term. Alright, so we're going to get straight into it. We're going to start with a blank slate. As you can see, the chart is blank. I'm going to be going through it, putting what I'm going to be looking at personally, running through everything. So without further ado, let's get straight into the analysis, okay? So we're on the monthly chart here. We've seen significant price increase. In fact, we've seen a 4 distinct months of upward trend. And right now we're forming a doji candle sort of formation here. So we're going to be getting into the analysis of this and why we could potentially be rejecting here. But before we do that, let's start putting our potential lines of support and resistance on, okay? So we're going to start with our monthly levels. So obviously we have one up here. We've got one up here, which has already been tapped, but we'll talk about that in a second. We've got one up here, down here. Notice how I'm doing the bodies of the candles. This is primarily because I found it to be the best. When you put it on the bodies, it gives you a more accurate example because that's where the volume and it closed during the day. It tends to be more accurate in my opinion because when you do the highs and the wicks of the candle, that's more so a liquidity region rather than a support and resistance level. And that's what I found from my, year and a half of, analyzing this quite deeply. Okay. So we're going to chart this and just say these are our monthly levels. Okay. So if you go here, you can put your presets on. Now those are our monthly. So we'll just trade in a folder here down over here. We'll call it HTF levels. And we'll go here. Right. So those are our monthly levels. Once we've done our monthly levels, we can then move on to our weekly. And I primarily only go down to the daily. So I'll just do the monthly, the weekly, and the daily for my levels. So I'll also be looking at what I think would be a good level. We've got this one here. We've got, let's move them to here. There's one up there. And then I can eliminate the levels I think have already been tapped and what I think is outdated already. I'll go here. We will go here for this one for sure. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this month level out because that's already been tapped and that was closer. That one is potentially a good one. Yeah, actually we'll put that one up there. Go here. We'll take that off. That monthly doesn't need to be used. So we go boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, I like this. Okay. Now let's just move that all into our daily HTF level channel. Then from there, we'll move down to the daily levels, okay? So daily, we're looking much closer into the price action. So we're going to be looking over here. So as you can see, we've got one that's right there. So we can remove that weekly level here since that was already tapped. And this one has our level. So we've got a daily there. Our daily bottom here. There. Cool. Interesting. So we've got this sort of like pitchfork kind of formation we've got going here. But anyway, that's besides the point. Let's chuck that into this folder there. Okay, so those are our daily levels, our weekly, and our monthly. Okay, so once I do that, I'm going to be moving down to I'm just going to check our overall volume zones so I can just see where we're rejecting off potentially. So we got boom, boom here. I'm going to go one. I like to check volume a lot because that's what I find where price rejects heavily when it hits a big node, and we can use a volume profile for that. So you got one up there, you've got one down here, you've also got one, grab that down there. You've got it sitting here, and then that one's going to be right there. There's one over there too. I'll just further make this more clear. So we've got it right here. I've got this one there. This one's down here, there. And I like to be very accurate when I do these because it often turns out that it works very well when you keep it very accurate. And obviously that makes sense, right? The more accurate it is, the better it is. So we've got these levels here, boom, boom. They already ran through. You had a giant one here that it ran through. And it obviously struggled and it came down, took the top, came down. So that's the volume profile levels. So we'll go here. And we'll just go volume. Now, the thing about me, I only primarily trade off levels, volume, and then Fibonacci, and then I'll be checking like external fundamental factors. I know a lot of guys have these onion rings for their charts. They got all these little geometric things that are going on. I'm not a fan of it. I don't think it's valuable to have all this stuff. Primarily, the less you have, the better it is, in my opinion. So that's just the logic I kind of roll with. What do we got here? We got the Fibonacci levels here. So obviously seeing rejection off that one. By the way, guys, this level where we've rejected from is a very high confluence level. And I'm sure you've heard everyone in that cat talk about this. You know, every run that's primarily happened has seen a giant rejection of the 618. So don't be surprised that we're rejecting it. Even we could potentially be going down to, we could potentially be going down to these levels down here for a rebound up. Like, I would not be surprised if we see a decent rejection here. But again, things could be different. Things could be different, new cycle, blah, blah, but generally doesn't seem to be the case. So I think personally, I should get into what I think in a second is going to happen. But let's keep doing this. So we got our golden pocket. We've got our standard. So we'll keep that there. So this is our Fibonacci. Fibs. There's other fibs you can use, but they're pretty specky in terms of speculation. So you got like time fibs, you got all these other fibs. This, like, for example, this is a fib here. That would tell you potentially where a high could be, and obviously it got that one. Yeah, there's different types of fibs. I'm not going to be using all these different specky stuff. It's just not my thing. I like to keep it simple. But nonetheless, the next one I look at is the swing flow pattern zones. So we've got one which is down here, which is going to be our swing flow pattern. And I advise, if you're going to do charting, you would put it. Also, is that a good level? I would regard that more as a resistance level than a swing flow pattern level. Like, I don't know if people are really going to be putting their swing, their liquidity, their stop loss here. I wouldn't potentially put that one there. Downside potential, I guess I'll put it here, but I don't think we're going to be going that low. Okay. SFP. Okay, so we've got the analysis set. Let's open everything up. So we got boom. Now this looks very messy. It looks very complex. It looks like I'm mad, I've gone crazy, but trust me, it's not. It actually does make sense. But let's go here, Fibonacci, let's go golden. So, as you can see, ignoring the fluff, right? So this right here is the fluff that just happened. The reason we've rejected upon this level right here, as you can see, we'll just mark like a circle. This area here, right? We've seen a significant rejection here. And it's primarily because we have a swing flare pattern above here, right? So meaning there's liquidity above there, and the swing flare pattern being the pattern which comes once you take at the high. Now, this generally happens upon high liquidity takes, which is probably a lot of stuff happening here. People short at the top. We'll analyze the price action in a second, but we had a significant rejection there upon hitting the 618 level too, okay? So you really have two confluence levels there. I believe you also had the weekly level, or the monthly it was? Yeah, the monthly. Because the monthly was the monthly was tapped. I've obviously deleted the monthly now. But yeah, so you had around three confluence levels. And I'm not the type of person to say I like to see the exact dollar to be hit. I like to see a region, a zone, give or take a few $100s. And that's what I'm going to be looking at. Now, that is for my longer term trades. If I'm looking for short term, I'm obviously going to be looking for, in the hundreds, in the way less time frame, and I'm looking for the movements that are much more accurate. But this is more where the overall price should be going, okay? All right, so we'll remove the swing flare pattern. Now, this one's already been hit, so I can delete that one now. So right now for our swing flare pattern zones, we have the previous high, which we've already formed here. So that's one that could potentially happen. We've got the one all at the top, and we've got one here. We've also got one in the low, but these are more not as important. But what I will do is I will have them just for the sake of this video, because obviously we can have a significant rejection of them too. So we've got one here, and then you've got one which is going to be down here. Okay, so if you remove this, this is what we're looking at in terms of swing flare pattern regions. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 that you'd be looking for at this point in time. And we'll be marking the trade spots, and I'll actually be putting boxes, and I'll be giving you guys time frames. Not time frames, I'll be giving you guys the actual numbers where I'm going to be looking for trades. It doesn't mean I will take a trade. I take a trade based on numerous confluences for me to take it. But in terms of regional positioning and biasing, where I'm going to be looking to place a trade, I will give you guys that because I think that is important to know where to be looking for these situations. Okay. So that is the stuff we've got going on right now. So what I'm going to do before we start charting out regions is I'm going to pull out the CVD. Now the CVD is the cumulative volume delta, which sort of gives you the indication of where price action is going to be going because it tells you where what the large whales are doing and people who are holding up price are doing or suppressing price. Now it's basically telling you what the price is doing, and then this is reflecting of the market orders or limit orders, I believe. Sorry, I messed that up. The CVD reflects the limit orders in the order books, right? So it's showing you what's actually happening and how it plays out. And the real price is the reflection of everything, right? So it's showing you what's occurring with multiple different tools, etc. So we've set it on Binance. This is very slow. We've set it on Binance, right? So this is the exchange that Binance is looking at, one of the biggest ones we're looking at. Now, what I like to look at when I'm on CVD is to look at potential divergence. So as you can see here, we have quite a large divergence, right? So we've got price maintaining an upward trend while the CVD is going down as a whole. Now, what this typically means is price is going up, yet there's more shorts being entered into the market. So in terms of market shorts. So what could potentially be holding this up? Well, it's going to be limit orders, okay? Now, this is what this is telling me. It's telling me it's bullish. So I'm going to hold that underlying bias that we are bullish over the long term. Now, this chart goes back till about, is that a month ago? Yeah, around nearly 2 months. So if you go back further, yeah, nearly 2 months this month goes back. Well, a month and a half more or less. But that's quite a large time frame. I would say that's a high level time frame. So a high term time frame, as in, not short term. So I'm saying the bias is going to be definitely bullish long term, just based off this. You've got right now, you've obviously got a stabilization in the CVD, nothing too crucial here, nothing to tell me anything convincing in this section. So I wouldn't be looking for anything potentially. What I can see though is a triangle formation here that's contracting in price, meaning there will be some sort of burst out potentially. And I will be looking for that. And I'm actually looking for a few scenarios to play out, but I'm not the one to sort of say what scenario is going to play out, but rather if it does this, what I'm going to do. That's the strategy is going to take. It's a reactionary strategy when it hits my, thesis. And I can have a dual thesis that says both things are going to happen. And that can be perfectly fine. People seem to think that you have to trade with this one-dimensional mindset where you believe that price is going one way and you will only, react in that manner. But I'm of the belief that you can hold two mindsets and two potential trades, right? And if it does one of them and hits one of the regions you're interested in, you can then take it. It doesn't have to be a situation where you're thinking it's going to go up and it goes down. You're like, oh, well, my plan's invalidated, right? You can have two plans, and obviously anything in trading you can have two things that can go wrong, like two things that can also turn out. But either one you kind of get what I'm saying, yeah, right? So definitely that makes sense. Now, what I'm going to look at right now is potentially, obviously we've formed our bias, right? But what I'm going to look at in terms of levels to potentially be buying at, so we'll go to the high level timeframes first. So high HDF, high level timeframes. So where I'm going to be looking to buy and accumulate more. I already bought a spot, so that's not a worry for me, but to accumulate more spot. Okay, so the first one is going to be the worst case situation to buy a spot. As in, if price drops, that will be like the lowest it would potentially drop, in my opinion, which is going to be this region right here. And in this region, I'm not going to give you a dollar point accuracy thing because that's not a reasonable thing to do. But you can give or take, it will be around 32,200 to 31,500 if it drops that low. All right. But in my opinion, it honestly won't. So I don't think that's going to happen. My next level I'll be looking at, let's just pull this up, is going to be around here and around here. Now, the reason I believe these levels are good is because they're volume levels, number one. And you've also got single prints here. Well, relative single prints. So if we see it drop here and not take the swing failure pattern, which is of the low of these wicks here, we could see it drop down here and fill the single prints. And I would start, even if I have this opinion that I'm going to buy stack down at 32, I would already start accumulating and DCAing in from here to here to here. Okay? Now, right now, if you're looking to buy right now, it's a sketchy situation. You don't know what's going to happen. I'm not going to sit here and say, like, I know what's going to happen. I'm going to give you the levels of what's going to happen, but I don't know what is going to happen, if it's going to go up or down. So to buy your spot Bitcoin now, I think is, if you haven't got in the market, it may be the best thing that you can do. But if you're willing to wait, and honestly, it's a risky thing to do. A risky thing to do is to wait. You're risking a potential upside that you could lose, and that just affects your percentage gains a lot. But like, if you did want to resist and wait, you could be waiting for these regions. So I've been marking them out, guys. We've got 37,000, we've got 34,300, and we've got around the 32 range. Okay, so those are for our spot position buys. These are the longer term trades. So mark them in your books. Don't forget it. I've told you. That's if that happens, right? So let's take a look at this right now, where we are now in price action. So moving on to the midterm timeframes, I would be looking for a potential buy, right? As in a midterm timeframe swing trade if we break these lows and we see a wick sort of like this, right? So I'd also be matching this up with other indicators, primarily momentum indicators and RSI. That sounds very childish, but it's good to see what retail's looking at and what wrecks most people. Right now, people are betting. Well, right now the playing field is quite even. But if we look at our fear index here, right? So we're sitting at around 62%, which means we're slightly more greedy, which is more bullish. And we've also got our Bitcoin sentiment right here. So 1 meaning extremely bullish, 0 meaning bearish. So we're sitting at 0.42, which is a little bit less than the midpoint. So we could potentially see a downside here, the price come down. So if a lot of people are bearish, what we could see is potentially price wicking down here. Everyone's shorting, right? Price wicks down here. People think it's going to go lower, right? Price actually comes up because it takes the low, takes the liquidity low down here, which means people who had longs, right? And it comes down here, they get stopped out, which could potentially push the price down a bit lower. But regardless, if we see that rejection here coming back up, we could then see a short squeeze of the shorts that have been entered coming down here in this region here. But it's not convincing to say there's going to be a giant short squeeze because the CBD isn't even, it's kind of mid. It's kind of not really saying anything that's of value. But we could be seeing that rejection there and price coming up. So what we're looking for is something like this. We're coming out this triangle. Might come up a bit, take that level out, come down, take that low, and then start to rise up again in this channel we've got forming down here. Right? So there's no reason to believe we're not going to stay in this channel right now because we haven't done anything convincing to say we're not going to be in it. Now, that's a potential trade setup right there. I'm going to give you the numbers. So that's going to be 40,100. What you're really looking for, write this down, is going to be a liquidity grab off this low. So these two wicks down here. You want to see liquidations on the, whatever metric you're looking at, liquidations, you want to see liquidations there. You want to be looking at potentially a market cipher. I don't like to use these things, but if you want to, you can. At the end of the day, it's just an indicator. You want to be looking at these things. You want to be going on the lower term time frames. I'll be going lower personally, but maybe like with the 1 hour chart, you could see. Honestly, 1 hour is really not. It doesn't give you enough time to react because it's lagging when swing. Like look at this, right? Swing flow patterns, they happen really quick. Like in no time, it's already up. So it's a really difficult thing to say. To use an indicator to predict these types of things, you just have to gauge it off your experience. But you'd be looking for a collapse from this low and to come up, and you'd like to see momentum shift. Maybe the red starting to ease up. I don't know, but I don't really tend to use that. But if you want to, you can. Okay, it's really just going to eyeball it and say, "Oh, I'm going to enter," and just hope for the best. But that's what trading is. You're hoping for the best with the high probability set you can get, right? And these are the trades that give you the highest probability. You can't sit here and say you know what's going to happen because you simply don't. But you have to take the trades that give you the highest probability because overall, over the long run, you'll be making more money than you are losing. Okay, so there's that level there. So mark that out. That's 30 or 40,000. The next level we're looking at is going to be Nothing in this level would I trade. I wouldn't trade this. I wouldn't trade this. I wouldn't trade this. There's nothing here that I would personally be trading. I would take that back. I would potentially trade this daily, just off the fact that it's quite near the 618 region and the global and the not the global the Fibonacci. So that's the only level I'm looking to trade here, and I'll give you that one. That's around 46,500 for a potential short. But I would be very skeptical of taking that short. I would like to see some convincing evidence to take that. Primarily, momentum shifting. And, we're seeing a lot of people bullish into that region, and we see a nice rejection there. Other than that, I'll be looking up to the higher level, which is going to be the liquidity high of this one. And I would not be looking to short it straight away. I'll be looking around the 50K region. That's a psychological level. It's also got around a weekly. But yeah, definitely that's what I'm looking at right now. That's also at 50,000. So again, to mark everything out for you guys. So the short-term longs, we're looking at short-term swing trade longs, 40,100. Potential short opportunity is 46,600. Potential short opportunity, give or take, is 50K to 49,700, around that region, okay? Obviously, when you're at the region, you look at how the price is reacting. And for the long-term buys, I gave you them before. What I'm going to be looking at, I will be accumulating more of that stuff there. So do not worry. All right, guys. So the next one I'm going to be looking at is going to be the Fear and Greed Index. We're going to have a good long stare at this one. So as you can see here, we're on CoinMarketCap. And I like to look at the Fear and Greed Index because it's very important. So if you look here, we are currently at 62 or 60, which means we're slightly more on the greedy side than anything. So, it's hard to know what's going to happen when we're at these mid levels, like 60. But, these levels are more convincing. So when you're at 35, when you're at, 81, that's when you start looking for, I'm going to look to short here. I'm going to look to long here. You never look at this, right? And you're like, I'm going to look to short here. It can't be fully green. So sorry, I reversed that. That was my bad. It can't be fully green, and you're like, oh, I want to buy here. Vice versa, oh, I want to short here. My bad, my mistaking of words. I was thinking about I was looking at it as a price chart opposed to a fear and greed index. But does that make sense? So don't be the guy that shorts, right? When it's at like low, when it's really fearful. And don't be the guy that takes a long when it's extremely greedy. Because you get wrecked. That's what happens when you get wrecked. So it looks like this, right? Everyone's greedy up into this. Everyone's greedy up into here. Everyone's greedy up into here. Everyone's fearful. Everyone's trying to short. Everyone's fearful. Everyone's trying to short. So you can't do that. So where are we sitting? We're sitting at a neutral stance, guys. So hopefully you already have your spot bags in, because if you don't, that's unfortunate. Now, anything could happen right now. We're at 60%, so it's really hard to know what's going to happen. But if we see a push up to extremely greedy and we're taking out this high and we see a rejection wick, well, I'm going to probably be taking a short at this region if that happens. But if we don't see that sort of stuff, I'm not going to be doing it. Vice versa, this level and this level. All right, so that is what we're going to be looking at. The next thing I'd like to look at, guys, is going to be the sentiment. So yeah, 4.2. So we're looking at. This measures a bunch of different metrics. It's got like 91 indicators that are measured. It's got like AI in it too. I'm not too sure how it works, but it connects to like APIs that check Twitter, Reddit for their chat logs and just sees what people are talking about in their overall keywords, which gives you a more retail-based opinion. So what you can gauge off the retail. Another one I'm looking at, guys, is the CBBI.info. This takes in a large quantity of indicators, you can see here, collates them together, and gives you a sort of when's the market top going to be in. So this one says that 61% we are at the peak, which obviously looking for around 100%. Yeah, so when it hits red around there, it says like we're at 100%. So right now you're at level around 50. I think it's like 61, yeah. So this definitely isn't something like where we are now. You're not looking to buy. You're primarily when it gets more green. So obviously if we drop, right, if we drop down to our levels we've spoken about before, like I said, around where is it? Around, give or take 35-ish region. If we drop there, we're going to see this thing change a lot. So that's something I'm going to be looking at heavily. We could enter the light green, and that's feasible. That's okay to buy in. But if it gets red, you don't want to be looking at that stuff. That's not good. Yeah. So I will actually. I'm gonna link all the things I'm looking at, guys, in the description, so you can look at that now if you would like to. And if you'd like to see my other setups and what I post and the reasoning as to why, join the Discord channel. It's actually in the link below. There's like 127 people in the Discord channel. Not everyone's active, but if you can chime in, tell me your ideas. I can give you an opinion on them. That's okay. So that's what I'm looking at, guys, right now. Nothing too crazy right now. Now, let's take a look at the altcoins. But first, before I do that, I just want you guys to write down the setups I've given you and make sure to look at price when it reaches them, because I know that we're going to have some sort of reaction at most of these levels, okay? Next one I'm looking at is going to be Beam. Beam is a gaming token. I was looking at a short position today. I did not take it because it didn't take out the high, but on other exchanges, I didn't realize it did, but that's okay. I actually took a long here and sold it right at the top. I can actually pull that up in a second if you want me to. I'll log into that right now and just show you guys where I sold that one at. I had about $2,000 Australian dollars, I believe. Made around, 14%, I would say. So let's take a look at it. I'll pull it up for you guys so you guys can see what it looks like. All right. So yeah, this coin is a gaming coin, and I think long term it's got some potential. But I'm not here to sell you anything or say what coins. Nor am I here to tell you what's in my portfolio. In my opinion, that's private information for now. But obviously, I'll tell you what Bitcoin's in it. But nonetheless, I'm charting this coin. I think we're going to be dropping further, guys. Potentially in this region right here, and we're going to be back in our value area regions for this coin. But let me just log into Bybit so I can show you why I trade this and sort of my reasoning behind the long trade I took and the reason I wanted to short it. Let me just log in here. Alrighty. So we'll go to there's a spot position where we're trading. Alright. So if you guys can look at the trade history, it should be here. So if it's there, if you can see up here, it doesn't tell me where I bought, but it tells me where I sold. So I bought around here and I sold around the top there as we hit the peak. So obviously on our buy bit, we've taken out the high, which is very nice. And we obviously, there's nothing for me to believe that we're not going to stay in this sort of channel. So, I have no reason to believe that we're going to go higher after seeing a rejection there. So in my opinion, we're going to be going, midway, potentially more down and back up again, in my opinion. Unless proven otherwise. And you proven otherwise when you reach your level, potentially here, and it's like, well, no, we're going to break, and then we're going to test it, and then we're going to break down. Then that would change my opinion, right? And what would change my opinion is not it breaking out fully, but it's breaking through, coming up, and then weakness is shown right here. And it's struggling to get to the top, and I'm like, okay, it's probably going to drop. I'd be looking for, well, I wouldn't short there because that's not a good reason to short, because you're technically at support. But it would break the thesis that you're going to stay in this channel. Does that make sense? So, yeah, there's about a $2,000 trade here. Made a good, I don't know, 20% on that. So that's kind of solid. Yeah. Now, thinking about that coin, I'm actually probably going to still trade that coin, but not really interested now that it's already dropped 12%. It's kind of like out of my reach now to trade. You got Link, which is range bound. You've got AVAX, which is, contracting into this sort of very tight price range, as you can see. Nothing here piques my interest to trade. Potentially Solana. Nonetheless, again, no. The reason I would say no is because you are forming this. I never like to trade when you're forming these because something's going to happen. Like something is going to happen. And yeah, I don't want to trade that. Ethereum is also forming that too. You've got that right there. Where, this is what we call a breakout triangle. I don't know the official name for it. I don't like to look at patterns, but this always plays out when it wrecks people because it's contracting price and people are like, well, what's going to happen? It's going to do something. So, I like to look at that and I'm like, oh, I don't really know what to do. I'll look at something. What I do like to look at nonetheless is these levels. I love to look at these levels. So what's the market saying? Well, if we form this and we just drop, right, and come back in, we could rise back up. It could wipe out the shorts and we could come back up. Likewise, we could pump up and then come down. And it always seems to do that sort of stuff and wreck people. But these are sketchy trades. What I like to do is if it comes up, I like to put my stop loss below it. So this is your stop loss right here. And as soon as it gets a bit higher, I like to put my break even there. As long as it gives me a little bit of leeway, and then I'll be like, okay, we're in a break even trade nonetheless, let it run. That's the strategy for those type of trades, all right? So no worries with that stuff. But right now, not my thing to do. The only thing I would do is potential short on beam. Potential. I wouldn't necessarily take it though. And the reason being is we are sort of forming, we do have this trend line you can look as a breakout support, but nonetheless, you know, if I were to place a trade, I would do a short and beam. The thing about beam is where do you put your stop loss? Because it's already dropped a lot. You know, by technicality, you should put your stop loss 14% above you. That's a significant loss. But if I had to put a stop loss, I'm just going to say this for the sake of this video, guys. It's not even, you can't even do that because it's not even good. If I had to, I'd probably put it around there. But again, I actually won't trade this because the stop loss is too big. The trade was to be made up at the top here. But nonetheless, that's okay, guys. Just you can observe the price and see what happens. Now, as for the altcoins, that's it. Nothing really tradable. What I would like to point out though is the crazy Richard Hart ecosystem that's been popping off recently. If you go on Crypto Bubbles, which is just a crypto aggregation of all the coins and their performance, you can see in the past week, Pulse primarily is done 52%. You've got Pulse that's done 140. You got Hex is done 110. Where's the other one? You got Pulse, blah blah blah. I don't know if this one has it, but yeah, you got all these different coins. I can show you the chart on the deck screener. So as you can see here, we've had a significant rise, very significant. We've had around a 3x from the bottom. And yeah, it's still a long way off the top, but that's a giant rise you've seen there. And you've got the wrapped pulse, which is just Pulse X, which has seen a nice rise to the top. We've obviously got a fair bit to run, another 2x to get to the top, which is pretty cool. Yeah, the Richard Hart ecosystem is really pumped. And if he wins the SEC lawsuit, he could potentially pump way more. But I'm not saying guys to buy this stuff. Just a analysis on the altcoins. Now we're going to quickly look at the altcoins, so the S&P 500, just to check, because that is our main market, traditional market right here. We've passed that swing play pattern significantly, so that's not really something we're looking at now. We've now formed a new range. So, it's definitely hard to say what's going to happen with this, but we could potentially see a fallback down to these levels here, which could obviously pull the crypto markets down. Definitely could do that. As for a high, you've got the double top high there, which could potentially swing play pattern off there. But this is kind of mid. This is kind of not really telling me much where we're hitting here. So I would say what's most likely is probably a drawback down to retracement or range. I don't see why it should significantly pump right now. But the stock market always seems to have a way of like doing you wrong. But yeah, I mean, nothing crazy from the stock market that's going to convince me anything right now. So, if anything, I would say it's on the more bearish side, just because we didn't even break the other high. I don't think we did. Yeah, but that's okay. We've also formed a lower low and a lower high. So, yeah, I mean, nonetheless, Bitcoin's also falling down a bit here too. Yeah, so stock market, definitely don't care about that one. Not really looking at that. Yeah, so we're forming that triangle there. How's beam going? Beam's there. Yep, cool. All right, so yeah, that's what I'm looking at, guys. Nothing more than that today. Right on those levels I've given you, that's what I'm looking at for potential trades. Other than that, have a good time. I'm going to be shooting some more content and some more videos, potentially about cryptocurrency and other stuff. So yeah, stay tuned, subscribe. Discord will be in the link below, and all the websites I've been visiting and everything for my analysis will be linked below. Okay, so nonetheless, catch you guys next time. Have a blessed day and ciao, ciao.